I started Tai Chi at 50. Now I'm 68, and doctors ask me for advice.
3 reasons to start Tai Chi workout.
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I keep track of all my tasks. I start by brain dumping everything I need to get done in a list view. Next, I set a priority and a due.
Yang hizo mas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's fine.
Hey, what's up, G? What's up?
It's the Big Deal Weekend at OK,
Can everybody hear me?
No.
Perfect. Apparently not. um, my boss at the back is telling me to give it a few seconds before I start. Thumbs up, are we good? Okay, great. Greetings, Mzansi. My name is Buitumalom Pakanyane, and a warm welcome to everybody who's come out to join us this morning for what I think we promised last time would be ongoing series of discussions and reflections about a couple things. Our first year in public representation in the National Assembly, of course, in the Gauteng provincial government. I'm going to introduce the gentleman to the left of me shortly, but effectively today's discussion is going to be, like I said, a reflective perspective on the past year of government, on the past year in South African politics, and a brief reflection on the present political moment, what the present political moment requires of us as South Africans, and what it's going to take ahead of the 2026 local government elections to really change the dynamic in our politics around the caliber of local leadership and what it's going to take to turn around our municipalities and metros in next year's election. To my left, my far left rather, I've got Rise Mzansi's caucus whip, Mr. Makashule Ghana, the hardest working member of parliament. And when we say the hardest working member of parliament, we really mean it. Most speeches delivered since the beginning of the 7th parliament, and incredible, especially over this period in the budget process, incredible performance and incredible just diligence shown in the execution of his parliamentary duties. And then to my immediate left, I've got the national leader and the chairperson of the Standing Committee of Public Accounts, Mr. Songezo Zibi. But I'm going to kick off the conversation first with a little bit of a perspective around the room. I'm going to take about 3 voices, and I just want to get a little bit of a sense of what you would like to hear from today's discussion, some immediate perspectives of some of the things you might like to hear a little bit about before I kick into the conversation. Otherwise, I'm happy to just get started. Are there any hands? Anybody who wants to list anything that they... Okay, we've got Neil over there. If we can just pass a microphone to Neil.
I can raise my voice. Is that good enough?
Neil can raise his voice. Neil, thank you. Please go ahead.
No, it's a very simple question that most people have on their minds in one way or the other, and I think Mr. Zibi has brought it up indirectly in a couple of comments, and that is we are very sort of fund dependent on very few people, and that they might withhold or have withholded some of our fundings because of some of our related policies that are principle related that I would, for instance, support, which is Gaza, if you understand.
Sure.
But there's a great, powerful constituency in the country that would have different views on the subject than us. And what obviously goes along with that is how are we looking to fund ourselves in future?
Thank you for that, Neil. 2 more questions. There's some space for 2 more questions. Just your kind of initial reflections of what you would like to hear from the discussion, what your expectations are, if any. I'm always shocked when you've got a room full of politicians and nobody wants to say anything.
Okay.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Bulela. I just wanted to ask, what I'm looking forward to hearing, of course, is from Ubuntu Makashule. And that is, what work are they doing, engaging with the work that is currently before the Health Committee in Parliament? So I'm just particularly interested in that area. Thank you.
Can you just give me a little bit of a what in the
So
portfolio
pretty
committee
much, for
adopted?
example, the piece of legislation that RISE is championing firstly, which is around gambling
Sure.
regulation,
Sure.
but also actually whether or not are they engaging with the tobacco control bill and
Sure.
what the position there is. I've been doing work in that field. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much for that. And then one more reflection. Cool. Malik over here.
Thanks, guys. I think for me, what the expectation of the three of you have of volunteers like us leading up into next year's elections, it'd be good to hear what that expectation is for us to do in the next year.
Okay, perfect. That's a great question. Thank you, Malik. Dasang, I'm going to start with you. Maybe just give me a little bit of a reflection of the current political moment, the climate at the moment, what you are finding citizens and political parties alike find themselves having to contend with at the moment and exist and have to respond to.
No, thanks to me, and good morning, leaders. I really appreciate you being here on a Saturday, and please forgive the late start. We knew some people were on the way, so we didn't want people to miss out on the entire discussion. But I want to say that I'm actually getting worried about the country, to be honest with you, because I think we are getting past the point where people are willing to listen to stories anymore, either from ministers or the president or parliamentarians and so on. And that environment can breed dangerous things in that people take the law into their own hands and they start basically trying to govern for themselves. And that is beginning to happen because people do not see the leadership decisiveness that they are looking for. And I think we must admit, something like Operation Dudula arises significantly out of frustration that the government does not do the job it's supposed to do to enforce South African laws as they are, because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And people don't trust the government. So that worries me, because even if people are skeptical about the government, at least they need to trust its authority, right? Because it does what it's supposed to do. So that's very important for me. That's the first thing. The second thing I want to say, and I'm only going to say three. The second thing is that being in the Standing Committee on Public Accounts and now seeing up close the things that I see, I think this is the last 5-year period, this one, we have before the country goes over the cliff. It really, truly is. And one of the things that worries me is that I still come across a lot of people, obviously not the people in the room, a lot of people who think somehow things will improve, somehow things will happen. And things are not somehow going to happen. Municipalities are collapsing all around us. The city of Johannesburg is the financial capital of the African continent. It really should not be in the state in which it is, but it is in the state in which it is.
Yeah.
And the thing that's depressing is you also don't get a sense that there is anyone who's willing to put up their hand and say, we can do the job, and people feel that the job can be done.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is the last 5 years, which is why I think it is important that we have the discussion, and we'll have it today, about how we can build the scale that we need in order to take back our municipalities, especially the key municipalities, right? That hold the economy and the country together. So that is the second thing I want to say. The third thing I want to say, for those of you who are on social media, and I think most people are on social media one way or another. I spend a lot of time on Twitter. I spend a lot of time on TikTok. Now, I need to say this very carefully because people get upset with me if I don't just say Mkhwanazi all the way. So what I'm saying is not about him. I am not criticizing him. But I'd like to get your views. There is an increasing number of people who want a military coup or similar.
Yeah.
They want a strong man.
Yeah.
because they believe democracy does not work anymore. And so when someone stands up and says, basically, I'm ready to fight, right? Whoever they may be, the comments that I see on my timeline are of people who are no longer patient with democracy.
Yeah.
This is why it is, I'm saying, in this 5-year period that we are in, and in the year and a half before the next local government election, let's say 15 months, actually, before the local government elections, it is very important that democracy wins.
Yeah.
That the people that are elected are the right people, and that all of us try and make democracy work by making sure that the people that govern us are the right people and that sort of thing. But there is this thing that frightens me. And I've got people, friends of mine who do analytics. Some of the most popular tweets and posts on TikTok about how the right way to do things is the Traore way.
Yeah.
Traore is not elected, but people like that idea. And that's the danger of being in this situation where the government and the leadership in government, and we have to be frank here, is not doing the work that it's supposed to do. The president is not seen to be presidenting. And that was the point I was making in Parliament, that Mr. President, people want to see you angry about the things they're upset about. They want to see you beating someone up very fast and not taking 3 months to make a decision. That environment creates this belief that if you have a soldier in charge, things are going to get better. Believe me, in the committee, I also know how bad the SANDF is. You do not want a soldier running the country. You really do not. But anyway, to me, let me leave it there.
The Traore example is an interesting one because I think obviously we're seeing a rise of authoritarianism across the world. I think a lot of right-wing Republicans who supported Trump with this view that he will always act in their interests while gutting the social support that working class Americans get to depend on is a typical example of how a dictator seems like a great idea until they act against your interests. Mr. G, you represent Rise Mzansi in the GNU's clearinghouse. I'd like to get a perspective from you and for the benefits of everybody here around the general dynamics of the Government of National Unity, where its strengths are, where certain pitfalls might exist, and whether or not it possesses the mechanisms at the moment to facilitate the broad-scale change that I think South Africans were expecting from the 2024 election. Dasong touches on how we've got 5 years before we go over the cliff. I think a lot of people were expecting that the 2024 election would be a change election, but in many ways some things have stayed the same. Just give me a perspective on the dynamics inside the Government of National Unity, where its strengths are, where its weaknesses are, and if you had the opportunity to single-handedly manage the GNU, what would you do a little bit differently?
Thanks very much. This thing is on. Sometimes when I don't hear myself, it feels like it's not on. Good morning, everyone. It's always great to see you. I talk a lot and I say it's Makashile Ghana from Rise, hardest working member of Parliament, and then I do other things. So yeah, I'm still the hardest working member of Parliament. But to me, if we look at 2024, it was indeed a change election. But maybe not the kind of change that people were, or people are yearning for. Because before the elections, so people will say they want to see political parties working together.
Yeah.
That idea of us working together, it's a powerful idea. That people are happy that we're working together. But it was with a hope that change will come very fast. And when change is not coming fast, to the point that Mr. Z Khadeb was raising, is that there's a, but we voted, we see this GNU, it's a year since the GNU was formed, the changes are very slow.
Yeah.
Because the patience has run out. People no longer want to wait. I want to have what you have right now.
Yeah.
Don't tell me to wait for 2 years or 5 years. No, I want it now because someone else has got it now. Why must I wait? And we operate in that space now where people are no longer prepared to wait. So the GNU, in the beginning, there was, like even from ourselves as political parties, there was a lot of, let me call it, there was excitement that no, we can work together. But one of the things that happens in the GNU is the trust level. So Khadebe raises the point of trust between the government and the citizens. But you also have a trust between the political parties themselves. Because we are trying to cooperate whilst competing at the same time.
Yeah.
It's not a model of cooperation only. It's how do you cooperate whilst competing? And how do you stay relevant? Because the biggest, let's call it the fear, every political party has got a fear that we must not be swallowed. We must, each party believes that no, we must on the other side of the GNU come out stronger. And when you are already thinking about the next election. You know, there's that, I think it's a saying that, political parties and politicians, after an election, they think about the next election.
Yeah.
Immediately you vote me in now, I must think about being re-elected. Governance is not the end. Good governance is not the end. It's a means. So the internal competition within the GNU, sometimes it makes things not work. One of the things that I will do, and it's something that we have proposed ourselves, and we'll see to it that it's implemented. It's the regularity of GNU meetings, the GNU parties, the GNU leaders, because at the moment, the GNU comes to life when there's a crisis.
Yeah.
So if you were to kind of think to say, has the parties that are in the GNU, have they come together to express a joint vision for South Africa for the next 3-4 years?
Yeah.
It hasn't happened.
Yeah.
And part of that, it's in the design, in that the relationship that we have a relationship with the ANC.
Yeah.
We don't have a relationship with the DA. That's why the DA can attack us. We don't have a relationship with the IFP. Even though the IFP are our friends, at least we don't attack each other, unlike those other ones.
Yeah.
So you need to have a joint agreement between the parties to say, this is what jointly we are agreeing to. This is what we want to do. And we must not only come to life when there's a crisis. The only time people know there's a GNU is when we are fighting. If you were to go outside now, it's like, oh, what's that? What's the GNU? But immediately there's a fight because there are always interests. People believe that maybe the GNU is going to collapse. The fear for everyone has got a fear, like I said. But when someone is like, hey, I'm a minister, I might not be a minister tomorrow. Then now we create a crisis. So these are the things that we need. We need a joint agreement.
Yeah.
We need a regularity of meetings. And there has to be a point, the closest where the parties in the GNU, or some of the parties, tried to address the nation was during the crisis.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to say, no, yes, the president speaks, yes, the minister might speak, but the parties themselves, they ought to be a joint agreement to say our commitment in front of the people of South Africa. This is what we are committing ourselves to do.
Yeah.
So those will be the changes that from the GNU side. Having served in the structures of the GNU, but also observing how things work, that's what I will change.
Okay. That's an interesting perspective, because it then tells us that the issues that play themselves out in the GNU are a consequence of political management, really. But I think from the perspective of the expectation that things would be significantly different post 2024, Mr. Z, with the one aspect of last year's election that I think has manifestly shifted the political landscape is that I think for the first time since the beginning of our democratic dispensation, we have South Africans starting to envision what life beyond the ANC looks like, right? You've got the ANC sitting at around 40%. There is an argument to be made for how breakaways of the ANC kind of make that picture significantly larger, if you include parties from the Congress tradition. But by and large, what last year's election tells us is that there is a willingness to look beyond the ANC when solving for the political crisis that exists. What is the role of parties like Rise Mzansi in occupying the ultimate void that is left by the demise of a political force like the ANC in occupying the South African political center? And what do you see? What do you envision life beyond the ANC looking like broadly at the level of the citizen?
You know, thanks to me. So life beyond the ANC could either be positive or negative, and I
Yeah.
will come to that.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing to do is to do the work, at least in our elected positions,
Yeah.
the way we're doing it. And I'll give a couple of examples. Some things that might not be in the public domain yet. But let me take Makashule Gana in Parliament. So he is not just the caucus whip for Rise Mzansi. Ghana is in the clearinghouse mechanism of the GNU. He's in the ethics committee. He's in the chief whips forum. He's in the transport portfolio committee and police, right? But more than anything, Ghana is able to drive issues as well. He has become Mr. Gambling. You see, that relates directly to the politics and the issues that we spoke about before the election. We said the personal is political, if you remember.
Yeah.
Gambling affects families.
Yeah.
It's a public health issue, it's a financial issue, it's a mental health issue, and so on for a lot of people. Once they get addicted, it's got devastating consequences. For a lot of people, it might seem like something that NGOs should handle. It's a real thing. It's a real policy thing. And the thing, the particular skill that Ghana has, is that he's able to speak about the issues in public. At the same time, he's able to have the behind-the-scenes consultations with ministers to push and push and push to make sure things happen. In the beginning, Parks wouldn't talk to him about it. And then Ghana said, but what's your problem?
Yeah.
Why are you running away from me? This is an important issue, and he's kept pushing, as we all know. Now, people notice those things, that this is a politics that is different. It's dealing with a problem that I know exists in the community. It might not be the usual things that everybody talks about: housing, water. They are very important. And that's why he's also in the portfolio committees in which he is, and I am. But the important thing is that we said the personal is political.
Yeah.
And gambling as an example
Yeah.
is an example of something like that we all recognize. That's one example that I can give. The second thing is that we campaigned on fighting corruption, among other things.
Yeah.
I'm the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. We are able to call to account the Hawks, the NPA, the SIU, the Auditor General reports to our committee. We are able to begin inquiries. We're doing the Road Accident Fund, which affects millions of people indirectly, by the way, each year. It's something that we're able to do. What does this say? It says, to your question, You can have different MPs
Yeah.
who don't do parliamentary work in the way that you've seen from the ANC previously, where we all vote for the party position, whether it is right or wrong.
Yeah.
Finally, you can see what hard work in parliament looks like.
Yeah.
And to do it in a way that relates to what you said you would represent. Obviously, there's the two of us in parliament. We can't fight 20 issues. But at least I think people can see. So that's the one thing that we can do. That's important. The second and last thing that I want to talk about is to be honest about the fact that the leadership levels that we have in South Africa are not good.
Yeah.
From the ANC as well as from the other parties. This is maybe an undiplomatic thing to say. The president can do better.
Yeah.
And is not. This problem that we all talk about the regularity of meetings and that kind of thing, if the president insisted on regular meetings, they would happen. And what I want to say to people, that if you want to see how things begin to fall apart, it begins with the inability for a coalition to meet. For a coalition government to meet, to agree on a political program and drive it. And that is why it is important, I believe, to me, to keep saying to people, we need to move past this paralysis that we are in.
Yeah.
And objectively speaking, after this president of the ANC, who is also president of the country, you don't have anyone who can convene, call different sectors of society together, and they want to come. Naledi Pandor was speaking the other day, delivering a lecture, and she said, people speak about the ANC with shame and disdain, and that's true. So our job collectively is to bring a different caliber of leadership together.
Yeah.
I believe that leadership needs to be younger than the old people that we have. First of all, we've got an opportunity for a truly diverse leadership in terms of race, in terms of gender, in terms of sexual orientation, and so on, to show the South Africa that we can be in future. And I think the work that we do must always be the foundation of how we show people the life beyond the ANC.
Yeah. Mr. Z, now that you've kickstarted us down a discussion with a reflective view of the past year, and particularly in Parliament, I'm going to come back to you. And this is something I've actually never asked you. I've been keen on understanding. There are so many examples of grotesque, wasteful, irregular, corrupt expenditure all over the public administration, all over SOEs, public institutions and entities all over the place. Obviously, you chair the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, which is effectively the watchdog on government expenditure. What does the process of defining the priorities of SCOPA in whatever period look like? How do you triage the massive list of issues that I'm sure you're confronted with, the thousands of open matters that you have, and how do you effectively define priorities for what SCOPA's immediate objectives is going to be? And then talk to me a little bit about the inquiry into the Road Accident Fund in particular and what has informed that.
So, quickly, I think simply, rather than quickly, simply. What we've chosen areas as a committee that get most of the budget, that affect the most people, that have got the biggest impact on the economy. Those three things. Okay? Most of the money affect the most people and affect the economy so that we can create jobs. So we narrowed that down to a number of themes, of areas. And I will not mention them in order of importance. Part of what we need to do to get people to get work in the modern age, in a modern economy, is education and skills. That is why we, on a regular basis, have the Department of Higher Education and Training, the CETAs, and so on, before the committee, because those relate to how people are going to get skills so that they can get jobs in the economy. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that transport and logistics sit on the neck of the economy like this, because our railway system is not working properly. Passenger rail also is not working properly. and you've got other problems with the quality of the roads and so on. So we're focusing on transport. The third one is water, in the context of food production, but also basic rights in terms of access to water. So the Department of Water and Sanitation, the water boards and so on are a priority.
Yeah.
The next one is key municipalities. So it's all the metros
Yeah.
as well as key district municipalities because they work with local infrastructure. So it's all the metros and key municipalities. That's why we were at OR Tambo district municipality. That's why we're going to do more
Yeah.
all the way into Rustenburg and
Yeah.
so on. So I won't mention all of them, but I'm hoping that you can see the logic in that we can't focus on everything, but we need to have a collection
Yes.
of areas that we're going to focus on.
Okay.
The second thing to me that I want to talk about the waste. The biggest difference we can make is fighting hard to get the right political representatives who can become ministers and mayors and so on.
Yeah.
So there are very few, there are a few good ministers. There are very few good mayors. Right? I must tell you, out of this room, there are probably 3 or 4 people who do better than some of the mayors I've met, as well as the speakers. Do you know you have an MMC for finance in most municipalities who cannot read financial statements?
Same.
So to your point about waste and managing the money well and that kind of thing, a lot of the time, the people don't know
skills
what
aren't
they
there.
are overseeing. It's a problem. I know we worry about the corruption. I worry about it too. But in many cases, the person who's overseeing a function does not understand it themselves. The people who head up infrastructure at municipal level, which is where most of us live, a lot of the time, that MMC does not even understand how proper contract management works. Suppliers are paid when the work has not been completed, or the quality of the work is not good enough and so on, right? The final one I want to talk about with the Road Accident Fund is that the reason we decided to do an inquiry, and don't listen to all of this PR that gets done on social media. It's all a PR, believe me. I'll just give you 2 statistics. 3 years ago, the Road Accident Fund finalized 257,000 claims. 257,000. They spent most of the money, all of the money that they were given. They get about 4 billion a month from the fuel levy. Right? So you're looking at about 50 billion. What they get per month is 4.2, 4.3 billion per month. They finalized 257,000 claims. 2023, 2024, they spent the same amount of money, finalized 63,000 claims.
What?
Yes. 63,000, you can go
That's a
and check the
fifth.
annual report. Yes, yes. You've spent the same money, but you've basically reduced the number by almost 200,000 of the claims. Now the question is, where is that money going? What we're seeing is that the amount of money they pay per claim is between 40 and 70% more than they were paying before, right? Now somebody goes around saying it's the lawyers. So when did the lawyers start screwing the Road Accident Fund? Because 4 years ago, you were settling lots of claims at less money per claim. Now since you got here, only 63,000, but you've still spent 50 billion. So why? Right? You understand? Our job in the committee is not to listen to PR and someone saying this lawyer and that lawyer and white firms. You look at the numbers. If the numbers don't number, you say, Baba, come. We want to have a conversation. This is why the Road Accident Fund is important. There are families out there who've lost a breadwinner. People wait 7, 8 years for a claim that the court has already said must be paid. They refuse to pay it. The people go to court, they still refuse to pay it, even if the court has said they must pay it. So we have to fix that place to me, because to the point I was making about the work of the committee, 257,000 claims if you assume that's one family each time, or however many,
And invariably it is.
it takes you to well over 1 million people in 1 year.
Yeah.
If we fix that thing, you've got over 1 million South Africans who will have a different experience.
That's insane. Mr. G, I think a lot of people in watching your issue driving on gambling, at least at the beginning, I think for a lot of people it makes complete sense now. But in the general context of all of our countries defining problems, I think in the beginning there were a lot of perspectives that were like, of all issues you're choosing to drive, why this one? But I think we've come to really understand the extent of the scourge of online gambling, the effect it's had on young people, from school-going learners and youth, all the way up to the effect it's had on families. Just give us a little bit of a perspective from your issue driving in the National Assembly of the extent of the scourge around gambling. How, as a party with 2 seats in the National Assembly, we've been able to achieve the kind of outcomes we've been able to achieve from that perspective. Maybe list some of those achievements and just give me a broad perspective of what your past year in Parliament has looked like.
Thanks. So, the fastest growing industry in South Africa, it's gambling and sports betting. That's the fastest industry. So when I started looking at the issue, and it coincided, because I haven't done proper thing, but it coincided with the SRD grant. So when the SRD grant was paid, the COVID grant, the gambling industry skyrocketed. Because now people moved from casinos, physical outlets, and now they can bet on their phones. Then I was like, no, man, there's something is happening here. And what triggered it for me was when I was still a member of the legislature, my political constituency was Soweto. And I remember a day that I went to Jabulani. So there's a post office in Jabulani. So the day that the SRD grant was paid, there's a post office, but there's also a betting outlet. The queue outside the post office was long. And the queue at the betting outlet was also long. I was like, all right. So people go there, collect their cash, hoping to then multiply it before they go home. And most of them, when they go home, they have nothing. Because the house always wins, by the way. It always wins. So the first time I raised it in Parliament, and the reason, in terms of issue driving, it's all about consistency.
Yeah.
It's not aiming for a quick win. You know, the first time I raised it was actually to the Minister of Social Development. She didn't even know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
I think Zibi has made some points around. Yeah, she didn't I'm saying we have a new pandemic. It's gambling. What is your department doing as social development? Have you considered gambling as a social ill? And she was like blank. Then I was like, all right. It just so happened that 2 weeks later, it was question time. So one of the things that we use in Parliament, especially when you've got 2 members of Parliament, you have to be strategic. We use questions tactically and strategically in terms of driving the issues. So we prepare, and I'll share a bit in terms of the preparation to the questions. Let me finish this. Then when I asked the Minister again of Social Development, she mumbled something that, doesn't make sense. Then he says, no, this thing goes to trade and industry. Then I go to trade and industry.
Yeah.
Minister Tau returns like, no, go to the provinces. I was like, no, you can't go to the province. I'm going to raise this matter until you start listening. And I did that because consistency in driving issues matters. I think probably the first 3 months when we started raising this issue, no one was paying attention. It's like, no, man, there are many issues there. But because you consistent, you keep raising it, then it just so happened that another betting company goes and donates school bags. And that was our moment. Because from there we could then say, now you are making poor children to be billboards for gambling. Because they don't donate these bags. They don't come to Rosebank or Parktown or Bryanston. They go to the poorest communities. You make them walking billboards. Now people started listening. That was the moment where people were like, hey, this thing is getting out of hand. But the more you talk about it, you own the issue. Even others try to hijack it, by the way. But because you also running other things and you don't know, like this is the thing with an issue. Yes, there are many issues that other people are running. So take, for instance, there was an issue of the sitters. Whilst it was trending, people were talking about it, other people were running with it. Like you don't always want to compete on every issue with every member. Yeah. Certain things like, all right, no, it's fine. But if there's a moment for me to say something on it, I'll say something. Yeah. So we kept, and then we started researching. And the more we research, by the way, we only have one researcher. That's right, Simsa.
Where is she? Over there.
Oh, she's there. Yeah. Only one. People are surprised, but with the kind of output, we thought that you've got so many researchers. No, only have one. And we have to move all departments with one person. In fact, this year it was slightly better. Last year we didn't even have a researcher. When we were delivering the kind of speeches, even when we started with the gambling, we didn't have a researcher. It was just self. I was just researching myself, researching and delivering, writing the speech, and you have to do that because you don't have a lot of stuff. So that's how you then push up until the point where now the minister can no longer ignore. I pushed him to say he must have the National Gambling Policy Council. Every meeting, as long as it's in the house, it didn't matter what I was talking about. Whatever the issue, whatever the department is, if it's in the house, I'll remind him that the National Gambling Policy Council still has not met. And after after I scheduled the meeting, he calls, says, hey, finally we're meeting. I said, that's good. When they come back, I was like, all right, now let's get the advertising regulations. Now there will be advertising regulations. Which I'm telling you, in the next 3-4 months, we will have regulations. In fact, maybe less than that time that I'm mentioning. Because of you, and it's important to hit one thing, succeed, rather than to hit 20 things and have no impact on them. By the end of this, when I say, someone asked me, when will you stop with gambling? And I said, when there's at least extra 5 billion rand in the coffers. As a minimum. 5 billion rand. And we were close to getting it. And we are close to getting it. We'll get to extra 5 billion rands that the gambling industry has to pay. Because at the moment they are... So once the advertising is done, one thing at a time. One step at a time. We deal with advertising. Once that's done, we deal with the tax rate. Once that's done, we deal with the contribution to the responsible gambling. Because it's not just... People think that, no, it's only advertising that we talk about. No, there are other things that we are moving. Immediately this is done, you'll see. Within 30 minutes, the next issue will be on the table. They're like, but when do we rest? No, there's no resting. People must pay for the damage. Gambling is it's a big problem. But finally, to me, just to take everyone in. So we accept our strength. So we only have, it's 2 of us. Every week, each one of us has got 3 questions. I know there are many departments. So we can only ask 6, combined we only have 6 questions. And we use that opportunity to ask the 6 questions. Every week we submit 6 questions. Different ministers, sometimes we just decide, like, I know we haven't asked the Minister of Environment a question. Let's ask so that they know that we are here. And then when they come back, they're like, we didn't think you know things in environment. We do. But it's all about a priority. Maybe even in terms of the question that was asked on the tobacco control amendment, we will give. We haven't interacted with the committee as yet, because in a week in Parliament, there are around about 45 to 50 meetings that are on the go. So Songezo is a chairperson. So he must be at Scopa each time Scopa meets. He can't go to another meeting and leave Scopa. At least me, I can afford to say, no, today transport is not discussing a big issue. Let me go to another portfolio. He can't do that. He does not have the luxury like me to move around. So I move around so many departments. So today you can see me talking Home Affairs. And then in the afternoon, I'm talking other things. Because you need to spot opportunities. And what are our opportunities is questions. Because once the minister has answered, you cannot come back and say, no, that was not me. It's official. That's what you said to the people of South Africa. So we use questions a lot. We don't miss question day in Parliament. Question day is on Wednesdays. So you'll see now we are going back to Parliament. On the 9th, the president comes. We haven't had an opportunity to ask the president an original question. We might get it next year. That's because how Parliament works is according to numbers. So maybe next year we'll get an opportunity to ask an original question. An original question is one that you submit beforehand, and then you also have the first opportunity to ask the supplementary question. So we haven't had that to the president, but we always have a supplementary question to the president. So on the 9th, unless if he has started with Scopa rough inquiry, then he can say, because seniority, you want the leader of the party to ask the president the question. I only get to ask if he's not in the house. If he's not in the house, it's like, hey, look, I celebrate. I get to ask the president. I get to ask the president the question. I haven't had that opportunity because he always comes. Maybe before the end of the term, you might say, no, Mchana, hey, please ask the president the question. And when I ask questions, by the way, I don't tell stories. I ask the question. My questions are always the shortest. I've never been stopped to say, Honorable Ghana, your time is up. No, my time is never up because I ask a question. I ask so many questions in a week, I don't have time for stories. Okay. So yeah, that's what I did. Sorry for taking long, but I needed to just explain because there was also 2 questions on the tobacco and other things.
It's an interesting perspective because I think very few people understand how Parliament actually works, right? So it really helps frame that perspective. But Mr. Z, if you ever end up with food poisoning on the day you've got a supplementary to the president, now we know what's likely happened here. There was a third chair here, and I neglected to explain what had happened, but we're supposed to be joined by the national chairperson of Rise Mzansi, Vuyiswa Ramokgopa, who is an MPL in the Gauteng legislature, and obviously as well the MEC for Agriculture and Rural Development. Unfortunately, she couldn't join us because she's ill, because she works too hard. She needs to rest. But Mr. Z, with the kind of perspective on the work that the national chair has been doing in her capacity of MEC, maybe just give me a sense of that kind of layer of government, how
our decision and frame and our journey throughout the 2024 election around hunger has informed our entry into the Gauteng provincial government, the extent to which it informs the MEC's work in government, and just some perspective around some of the strides she's made from that perspective.
No, thank you very much to me. So I'll just say three things. The first is that once again, when we had the opportunity to discuss joining the Gauteng provincial government, the area in which we campaigned on, which was hunger, was the reason we ended up with the portfolio that Vuiswa has, because with agriculture and rural development, you do have an opportunity to show what it is that you are that you do when you get elected. Basically. So that is the first thing. The second thing is that with Vuiswa, we have an opportunity once again to show what a different type of leadership does when you've got that leadership in place. And I'll just mention a couple of things quickly. So the first thing is that I think you might have seen a story in the Sunday Times, I think it was last year, sometime.
With the farmyard scandal.
Yes, the farmyard scandal and so on. That was not an expose by the newspaper, that was an expose by the MEC, saying what she has found in the department. And she has been cleaning up. There's going to be a new head of department, there's going to be a new chief financial officer, and that chief financial officer is supposed to clean up the procurement and that kind of thing. You have to get the right people in place. You have to get the right people in place in order to get the work done. Otherwise, it is not going to happen. So that is the second thing that she's done. The third thing that Vuiswa has done, the amount of, if there were loyalty miles for going around to meet stakeholders and community and community members, she would have platinum status.
100%.
I think we can all agree that given the compact size of Gauteng, Vuiswa gets around a lot. And it is very important that we do that. She has brought together stakeholders at a primary level, that is at the farming level, in the agri-processing level. She has worked to build international links with the Chinese and so on as part of her work, because ultimately, we don't only need to build capacity to produce our own food. We also need to be an exporter of food. She is focusing particularly on the ability of families and communities to produce their own small-scale farming capability. So that is the first thing. And secondly, getting young people in particular to be interested in and to be investable in the agri sector. It's not a sexy sector. However, when it is done right, it can make a big difference in people's lives. So I'm really proud of the work that Vuiswa is doing. And let me say this, one of the challenges we had during the election is that we had no track record of what we do when we govern. And people take time to trust you. They need to see what you do. The most common feedback that I get now from people who did not vote for us, by the way, they will say, you know, I thought of voting for you guys, but I didn't think you were serious. So I voted another party. But I'm going to vote for you next time. I've seen what you guys are doing. So it's important that we keep doing the work and the consistency that Ghana is talking about, right? And I'm not gloating. But what issues is MKP driving? Seriously, let's talk serious now. So you can say with Makashule Ghana that it's a, they've got how many, 14, how many 57 MPs?
50. Well, they should
they've
have
got 56, 57 MPs in parliament. Genuinely speaking, what issues are they driving? We can say with Ghana it's gambling, we can say with me it's public accounts, it's road accident fund, it's municipalities, etc. You can say that. You've got 2 seats. But what are they driving except going to court? And those are the things that we need to tell South Africans. That if you had Can you imagine what we would do with 10 people in parliament? The damage we would do. Good damage, obviously. With 10 people in parliament. And this is what South Africans did not get an opportunity to see.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That you might be a small number, but you can do better than the guys who focus on how they look. Everyone has to wear camouflage. You have to, honestly, you have to try and disrupt the meeting. You have to ask silly questions in the meeting. That's the politics that you represent.
Yeah.
You represent millions of people, and that's what you do in parliament. Right? So we have to show that serious politics and serious policy making is the politics that we should pursue.
That, you know, I wanna, yeah. It should be 56, but they keep resigning MPs so that they can tweak their parliamentary list because of internal discord. But definitely a point well made, Mr. Z. I want to take a little bit of a shift. I want to take a forward-looking perspective. I think your work in Scopa obviously gives you an incredible perspective into the factors that inform the dysfunction in municipalities, regional municipalities, I mean, district and local municipalities, to, all the way up to metros. We often have conversations about how the funding models are broken and what, but I think in a city like Johannesburg that has a deep enough funding base that largely should be able to cover its expenditure, what are the defining issues in Johannesburg that perhaps might set it aside from other municipalities? And generally, what's your kind of perspective on what it will broadly take to turn around that layer of governance? I mean, you've spoken a little bit about how you've got MMCs that don't know how to read financial statements and the general crisis of leadership that exists at the municipal level. But from your perspective in Scopa, you've done oversight work and received reports from the Auditor General in respect of the health of municipalities in the Eastern Cape and the Free State and Gauteng. Just give me a perspective of what will it take to turn around that layer of government, and specifically speaking to City of Johannesburg, where what used to be described as a world-class African city has become a far cry from what we're accustomed to. What will it take to turn around this place?
So to me, a couple of things. The first is we need different quality of councillors.
Yeah.
Who can be MMCs.
Yeah.
Okay? So Kenny Kunene and I have a decent relationship at a political level, right? But we must also think carefully about somebody who gets arrested at the scene of a murder arrest. Saying they were taking a journalist in work time, by the way. In work time. The person was there. You still don't know what the story was, what they were doing there.
Because the journalist can't Uber.
Here is the problem. That person is responsible for something like the Johannesburg Roads Agents, I think, as an example. There is a board, there's money, and so on, right? We're busy complaining about... Voice what goes around.
Yeah.
Talking about... potholes and other things that we see. The MMC responsible for that thing is taking journalists to the house of a criminal suspect. But that's the truth. That's what's happening. So that's the first thing that we need to do. We really need to recruit as many high quality people as possible.
Yeah.
By high qualities, mean people take their work seriously. They can be trusted to do the work in the areas in which they are strong. Don't take an artist and make them head of engineering. It's not gonna work, right? So that is the first thing that we need to do. The second thing in the city of Johannesburg is to remove the complexity they've got around here.
Yeah.
There is a company in Joburg for everything. For rubbish, there is Pick It Up. To fix the roads, there's Johannesburg Roads Agents. For this and that and the next is something, right?
Yeah.
It has a board, it has got an executive committee, it's got layers and layers and layers of bureaucracy. What happens when you've got corrupt politicians is this. Who of my friends and people are going to give me money can I put on the board of that thing so that they can appoint a chief executive and a CFO who's going to give contracts to my friends? Here's a radical solution. Close down those companies. Let the municipality do it. So I get the reports myself. The city of Johannesburg has too many entities, unnecessarily so. Right? Does New York have a company for everything? No. It's way bigger than the city of Johannesburg. Remove the complexity. Make the people who are responsible politically oversee the departments that must do it. Right? Otherwise, you've got an executive director, you've got a company, and it's a mess, and there are board members who get changed all the time. They take the city to court. So remove the complexity. So that would be the second thing. The third thing, cities work on optimism.
Yeah.
Right? Do the basics. If I see that in my area there are no potholes anymore, the water supply is more reliable, the lights always come on when they're supposed to come on the street and so on, my mood improves, and I'm more likely to believe in my own community and invest in my own community, start a small business, etc., etc., etc. So it's important that we get people who are going to focus on doing the basics. That's true in Johannesburg. It is true in Buffalo City. It is true in KSD and so on. If there's one thing I see all the time in my work as chairperson of Scope, is just municipalities that never do the basics. There must be a huge project that is going to help as many people as possible to eat. That's it. Forget the basics. You must have a big project that's going to take too long.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are the three things I think we would need to start with.
Yeah. Mr. G, you've served in effectively every layer of government, and it seems like there's a specific kind of dysfunction that exists and festers in coalitions at a local government level. Last year during the election campaign, you heard a lot of don't invest in smaller parties, they fracture votes and create a lot of the discord that you see in this. And the city of Joburg was used as a constant example, because if you live here, you need to check Twitter to see who your mayor is every day. But the reality is we're probably going to be facing a lot of that in the 2026 local government election. Give me a little bit of a perspective of, from your experience in different spheres of government, what informs the dysfunction at that layer from a coalition perspective? Is it a specific kind of dysfunction? And how does a party like Rise Mzansi with a relatively smaller footprint still drive meaningful issue driving and meaningful growth and delivery in a local government context, at the local government level? Sorry.
Thanks. So what Hadebe raised on leadership is where everything resides.
Yeah.
You know, and I was watching one of his interviews that he has done this week, where he's, you know, we have a very South African problem, let me call it that, not a challenge, a problem, is that those that have a potential to lead don't want to lead. Those that are crooks, they go out there and they knock on doors and they get people to vote for them.
Yeah.
And those that have potential, they're like, no, we don't want to fight. As if it's not your country.
Yeah.
It's your city, it's your country. If you don't want to fight for it, guess who's going to fight for it? Yeah. The crooks are going to fight for it.
Yeah.
So if you don't stand up to say, you know what, the money that is being used, it's my money. You know, and I equate democracy to a stock fail. It is. We contribute money, and we ought to select the best amongst ourselves to look after that money, to do the things that we want to be done. But here's the thing, the people that give the most money don't want to look after it. The people that give money don't want to look after it. Then the best don't want to look after it. Now the crooks come and steal it. And we are surprised. So the so-called instability caused by, it's not the small parties. It's the people that you elect.
Yeah.
Because everyone sees that it's my chance to eat.
Yeah.
So in an instance where there's no outright winner, then everyone wants to get closer to eating, not delivering. I said this even with the fights in the police. By the way, I raised this issue even before Mkwanazi raised the issue. On the 4th of July, we had the police budget vote debate. So people must not say I waited for Mkwanazi to say what. The fights that you see in the police has got nothing to about protecting you. They're not fighting about protecting you. They're not fighting about protecting South Africa. It's about money. It's access to contracts. I said it on the 4th. So when Mkwanazi is like, no, but I said it on the 4th.
Yeah.
On record, it's there. So you have this fight that it's not, if the fight was about who delivers, who gets to deliver, then it will be better. So what makes, at the local government, is because the way the system works at the local government is slightly different from province and national. Decisions, let's say there's a piece of land that is, I'll give an example of land. Let's say there's land that is owned by Public Works. Public Works can decide to sell or lease that land. They don't need Parliament to agree to it. Ne? If there's a piece of land in a municipality, you can't do anything until council has resolved.
Yeah.
Because the council and the idea of a council, it's like a board of a company. So if you've got rogue board members, what do you think will happen?
Yeah.
That's why like there's all this constant, because at the local government, even just a decision to say, let's say a decision, give an instance. You see, like now there's a fight in Johannesburg around the Killarney Country Club.
Yeah.
I saw one councillor said, no, let's not have the country club. Let's build low-cost housing. Was a councillor. Said, no, let's not have a country club. It's a problem when you start thinking. I'm not saying you must not have low-cost housing. But if every little space that is available, the next thing, there will be no parks in Johannesburg. There will be no places of recreation, because every space that people see, there must be low-cost housing. Because people are not thinking about the entirety of being a citizens. Our life cannot revolve around housing. I mean, like, one of the criticism we have, even with the current way of building settlements, is that there are rows and rows of houses. There's not even a park where children can play. There's not even a sports facility there. It's like our lives have been reduced to bricks and mortar. And that happens when you've got the wrong kind of councillors in. So if there's one thing that Rise Mzansi has to do, and we must be an organization that obsess about the best public representatives. That's what we must obsess about. For me, I don't obsess, for instance, about having a ward structure there, branch structure there. Our responsibility is to give to South Africa, to give to the people of Johannesburg the best leaders possible. So where must we spend most of our time in is to find and prepare people to be leaders. Because if we identify that the mess is at the board level, then what do? You invest time in finding board members, and you prepare them to be good board members. So that's where we need to be. So if we do that, because we're in a democracy, there's no guarantee that just because you've got to Malik's point, just because you've got good candidates, you will necessarily get people to vote for you. Now, as a volunteer, it becomes our responsibility to make our friends, our communities know that Malik is a good candidate. And you know what technology has done now? It has given us that now you don't have to go around knock on people's door. I can knock on your door using my phone, and we can interact without seeing each other. And if you're a Rise Mzansi volunteer, and 2 days goes past and you haven't shared either on your WhatsApp, on your Facebook, X, TikTok, Rise Mzansi content, then you must ask yourself, are you a volunteer of Rise Mzansi? Because you must be where, if you are not sharing, then we must be seeing you attending community events and preaching the word. That's what I would say I expect, Malik, is that on a daily basis, this issue of leadership is critical. So we all have friends. We all know someone that we think, no, you know what? We think you can be a good counselor.
Yeah.
Let's recruit them. Because when all is said and done, this is our city. This is our country. And from us as Rise Mzansi, and the way we do our politics, it's not to wait. We don't want to benefit politically on distraction, on a South Africa that has got no future.
Yeah.
People say, no, let's wait for 5 years. You know where we'll, like Zibi said, in 5 years, things will get worse if we do nothing. If there's something that we can do now to contribute, that's why we are part of the GNU and the GPU. It's because we don't want to wait and say, no, let them mess up, and then after 5 years, we'll benefit from that. Guys, rebuilding is tough. Yeah. And it takes time. So if there's something that we can fix now, let's fix it. Let's not, for me, we want to have clean communities, safe communities. If I can do something today that contribute to that, I cannot wait for 5 years and say, no, let them first mess up.
Yeah.
My job is not to clean the mess. It's to help the country prosper and go forward.
Yeah. That sounds, just to touch on that, the quality of leadership at the local level. You've been quite vocal about the 75-year-old white woman from Cape Town who's coming to save us from ourselves because we can't seem to get our affairs in order. But I wanted to get a sense from you of you've been quite vocal about the capitulation of the black middle class, the black intelligentsia, and black residents and citizens in Johannesburg who have the skills, the aptitude, the depth to play a meaningful role in solving a lot of the issues that define public life in COJ in particular, but haven't played a meaningful role in driving that change. Give me an understanding of what your expectation for that participation is and looks like. And then maybe you can segue into a general kind of perspective of what Rise Mzansi is doing to position itself for success in 2026.
So I'll start here. So Nelson Mandela was an attorney. Oliver Tambo was an attorney.
Yeah.
Walter Sisulu was an estate agency.
Yeah.
Right. I can go on and on. Some people were in the clergy. Ngozi Albert Lutuli was a reverend. I'm just talking in the context of the ANC. Now go overseas, for example. Bill Clinton, who had the best stretch of the U.S. economy in the last 50 years,
yeah,
was also a lawyer and that kind of thing. The reason I mentioned this, and this term of intelligentsia is a term from the 90s. I kind of learned it in the 90s. It basically says for society to move forward, you need some of the best that society has educated and produced to take the society forward. What is happening in South Africa in general, but since I'm in Johannesburg, I had to mention Johannesburg, is that those people don't seem to want to take responsibility. To want to take responsibility at a time when they're not going to get arrested, like Madiba was, right? Nobody's going to arrest you for being in politics. And yet people don't want.
Yeah.
And the Helen phenomenon is this. Helen knows that people approached political outcomes in this way. I hire someone to do the dirty job for me. So Helen might look like the person who's going to do the dirty work so that I can sit at home and not be the one that takes responsibility for cleaning up Johannesburg, for cleaning up Buffalo City. This is a problem that exists right across the board. You talk about the city of eThekwini. There was a time when the city of eThekwini was so filthy.
I remember.
Are you telling me there are no people in the city of eThekwini who are not crooks, who've got the skills? How many engineers does the city of eThekwini has generally? I mean, in the area, there are enough engineers. And yet the city is in the state that it is in. So the call is this, that we can't keep burdening poor South Africans with the sole responsibility of saving the country, because that's what happens. The people who are educated don't want to get their hands dirty in trying to save the country. It's poor South Africans who have to fight every day to try and save the country, because that is what happens, right? So that, in essence, is it. And I'll mention just two things that we need to do. The first is what some of you might have heard about us being in discussions with other political parties, right? In the local government election, it's a first past the post system. So if there are 4 political parties, one gets 38%, the other one gets 32%, the other one gets 28%. The one that got 38% is going to have the council, right? And I think that's typically what's going to happen with ANC councillors. They will not get 50% plus 1, but they will still get a good number. Now, what do you end up having? You've got BOSA, Rise Mzansi, Good, Action SA, splitting the rest, and the ANC councillor still wins, right? That's really what can happen. We need to solve that problem by saying, let's create a formula where we don't take votes away from each other. Otherwise, these fellows are going to win again and destroy Johannesburg and destroy Buffalo City and so on. That's what's going to happen. So strategically, colleagues, that is why those discussions are necessary. It does not mean the end of Rise Mzansi. Because we're in parliament, we're elected and so on, we are still going to exist as Rise Mzansi with Rise Mzansi t-shirts and so on, but for the purposes of the election, we also can't do a moonshot where we are competing, but we are together. Come on, I mean, it's either you are together or you're not. So let's work together. Let's work together to get the best candidates that we can get. Let's not compete unnecessarily. And let's make sure that we have a powerful mayoral candidate everywhere who can get the job done. That is the logic. So that's the first thing. The second and last thing, therefore, Tumi, I want to say, you know, Ghana had this term, let us recruit upwards.
Yeah.
I try and do this. There's somebody that I'm working on, a couple of people that I'm working on as well in the context of this work, who are not in politics, but are people of great capability and are well known, right? And I think in many respects they're better than me. Because I think South Africans would be excited to see them putting up their hand and saying, I want to be a councillor, I can be a mayor, and that kind of thing. So I think all of us just do two things. Either you do what Malik has done and say, screw it, I'm here, right? I'm going to do it. Or if you don't feel like that, go and harass someone who is as good as you or who's better than you and say, I am going to support you, I'm going to campaign with you. Please come, I want to put your name forward. And we can contribute those people into the pool of people that we can feel that have got credibility, right? That can then stand as candidates. And we can do this all over the country. So to me, those are the simple steps. Let me just deal with the question of money because it becomes important. So I've, during this recess, also been doing a lot of the reconnecting with potential donors and donors. The thing that is exciting people who can contribute is the possibility of working together. Because they are not going to be supporting a vote that will split. So you have a really good candidate from a Rise, you have a really good candidate from BOSA, they're in the same ward. And then in the end, the candidate that was supported with resources doesn't win. And you still get a crook who gets elected to council. That message is getting through. The second thing that's getting through, even even people who were ambivalent, people who didn't want to talk to me about money 5-6 months ago, now they are calling and saying, we haven't had water in my street for 2 weeks now. So those conversations have rekindled, but it's really important that we show the potential to win. And that's why working together becomes important.
That's incredible. I want to take a couple, we've got about 15 minutes left, maybe 2 or 3 questions from the floor, if there's any. There's a hand there.
There's enough hands.
There's enough hands. Let's start there, the gentleman with the cap, and then Rato will show.
I'll just try to be very quick. Thank you very much for, again, contextualizing what RISE really stands for, and I appreciate it. There's this issue, again, about the middle class and our hands not coming up. And it goes back again to how the politics, I think, is arranged in this country. I mean, just to participate in parliamentary processes is a headache for us who have to go to an employer to keep our lights on. And at the same time, you want to participate in the politics. And it's a matter of which one do you choose, because unfortunately, if you believe in an organization like Rise Mzansi, which I do very much, the challenge that we have is exactly that. How do I then leave, my cushioning job to then take up the politics? But then one thing I just wanted to position is, how are we involved as Rise Mzansi with this issue and this very progressive legislation that I see in Parliament around public service reform? There's 3 pieces of legislation there that are looking to really transform this issue of making sure that capable people are are doing the work. How can we be involved as volunteers to do that work? And then lastly, I heard that there's one research, I'm assuming there that it's the parliamentary researcher you were referring to. We are researchers, we are capable, we want to volunteer our time. Why are the platforms? Who is talking to us? Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you for that. Love that question. Rato, there's a hand over here, the gentleman with the blue shirt.
Hey there, everybody. My name is Christopher Trompeter. This is not a question, it's more of an observation. I don't know if it's just me. I was listening to you, Mr. President. You remind me so much of Nelson Mandela. It's not just your looks, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself. We're going to use that to our advantage. The second observation, my prayer to Rise Mzansi is exactly what you gentlemen said. You have 2 seats in Parliament right now, and all the what you can achieve is what you can achieve. But I need to applaud you for what you have achieved so far. But you need, as the gentleman said, we need to bring, and you said it yourself, there's so many capable leaders right here that can come and assist you. And I pray that we grow to that level. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Okay, Profil, I'll come back to you. Rato, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lungi Tolamo. I wanted to get a sense of adopting technology to get us through. We sent, a man was sent to the moon in 1969, and in 2025, the Auditor General is telling us that there's a counselor that can fill out a form. You have a president that's saying he wants a national dialogue, and he has 19 radio stations, 3 channels, and yet he wants to spend 700,000 where else he could open a WhatsApp group. So there's a lot of things that technology can enable. The problems, not the challenges, the problems that we are facing currently, and just push them a little bit, just a little bit phambili kancane. So I wanted to get a sense of what is the temperature in the room there in Parliament about adopting technology just to move us forward. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Maybe we can do 2 more, just given that the last ones were Observations?
Hi guys, I've been watching you in Parliament and I'm very impressed, and so I'm in finally. My name is I'm Shireen Singh. I just want to find out, how does one engage? I don't know whether you have this on your website or where. If I want to connect with Rise Mzansi people in Joburg, I mean, who is their branch coordinator? Who's the person? It's just a very basic, practical thing.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's give everyone a chance.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Sorry, my name is Ismail, I'm from Woodbank, and I think like most of us here, we've been following slowly the progress and, you know, the ambition of the party. And a lot of us do have some political background, and the reason, you know, I'm here today is quite simply I don't want to find myself and people that I represent voting for a party and be too-hearted about it. I want to be in the fold completely, in the sense that there's certain areas in the country where we're going to find ourselves voting for a party that we don't fully support ideologically and so forth, but we're going to be voting for them simply because there's no other, or there is no alternative. And fine, here in Joburg, you know, Rise Mzansi, you know, is known and somewhat, you know, taking a route. But there's some parts of the country where people haven't heard of Rise Mzansi. And I just want to know, is like, how are you guys going to be, or is there perhaps, do you have idea or plan to enable us to further inform people? We've already started in most of our little areas, and we've already started bringing about awareness and building membership and support and so forth. But I just feel that we're lacking that enablement from your side to further establish the parties. And I just wanted to make you aware of the fact that I think time is not on our side. I think that if we think about it, it's something that we should already be pushing. And I know you guys are probably, with the limited resources being only 2 or 3, you know, you can only stick to Gauteng. But I think there's many of us here that you can use to your, you know, to your favor to start yesterday already. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask around the issue of the legislature, because we see the work that is being done in Parliament, and because in the legislature we only have one representative and it's an MEC. How do we use the legislature to drive issues from the ground? You know, there are issues in communities that in the Gauteng government, your libraries that are not operating, your youth centers that are not operating. How do we then bring them up into the legislature to be driven at that level? You know, do we have a legislature office that is there, that is functioning? And if it's there, how do we access it and bring about issues? You know, because we can drive issues on the ground, but if they're not finding resonance at the particular legislature, then it's pointless.
Perfect, thank you. Were there any other hands? Oh, okay, we'll go there, then we'll come back to you, Profil. Okay, sure.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much. Khadebe and Mr. Makashule, thank you very much for the good work that you're doing. I'm very much excited that my vote is not wasted. Secondly, I'm worried. I think we should pray for you and look after yourselves, because you're dealing with criminals here. And as soon as you start stepping into their territory, then they all think of something. And with Makashule dealing with gambling is run by mafias. So we need to also pray for you while you also look after yourselves. Khadebe, there's an issue here. I think I'm just going to bring it to you about ESCOM. ESCOM is falling apart. Part of the reason is they are using contractors for everything. Just a simple cable. If it bends, it needs to be replaced. Like I have one in my street. We are now 4 months waiting for a contractor to come through. When you go to them, oh, we're waiting for a quote from the contractor. What happened to all the stuff that ESCOM had? Because we used to have ESCOM technicians dealing with these issues. But now, probably because now it probably makes sense from what we heard from one of the former ministers who said someone has to eat a little for things to work at ESCOM. But this is taking away the progress that we should be making as a country. Can we also look at that and try and hold those executives to account from the ministers responsible? Because we're not going anywhere. I can tell you, if you drive around, you'll see bent tires, especially in townships, everywhere. And if you ask, what is the issue here? Electricity. Just in my block, I've got 2 transformers that are out. It's a small block. So that is an issue everywhere. Thank you.
Sure. And then just the last question here from Bethany, please.
Hi. As somebody who voted for RISE, I think more because of the left in center-left, I'm curious about how the tension between the two kind of plays out. Going forward, how do we navigate that? I think globally, centrism has kind of become synonymous with neoliberalism and the prioritization of big businesses and billionaires over regular citizens, rising wealth inequality and the collapse of the middle class, and kind of a broad shift towards authoritarianism, as Tumi was saying. Kind of centrist leaders have just kind of responded with like a meh. As long as our financial interests are protected, we don't really care to fight against it. And we're also seeing progressive movements gain momentum. Given all of that, is like the prioritization of centrism a good strategy? And yeah, just is it not an issue of maybe a friend to all is a friend to none? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to split the questions up like this. Mr. G, I'm going to ask that you quickly cover the questions around what kind of plan is there organizationally to enable participation, and I'm happy to touch on whatever you might want me to supplement. But I think when you do that, maybe just give a little bit of a texture and perspective on the shifts that have the things that have informed the shift in how we understand political organizing, how we are transitioning away from traditional branch structures, not just the organization, just generally how the shifts kind of that are permeating the political organizing space, and then secondly, if you can touch on how we can use the legislature office to drive issues, so things like the petitions committee and all of those things, even though we only have 1 seat, and that 1 seat obviously is an MEC in the executive. And then Dasong's, I'll list your issues, your questions for you to respond to.
All right. Thanks very much. just quickly, and I'll link to what I think is Lulu and Ismail raised in terms of using technology.
Yeah.
Also, technology. I must give it to Parliament. And I was in Parliament before, and now Parliament has gone a lot more digital. A lot more. So, yes, we do have venues that do not have broadcast facilities, but most of the committees, you can follow them online. Like you can watch, you can comment, you can interact with other South Africans. So one of the things that you could do, Ismail, let's say there's an issue I mean, like there's a issue. Say, for instance, the public service reforms, and they are coming before committees. And you find that there are people, let's say there's 3 people in Johannesburg that are interested, 3 people in Malahleni and other places. And if let's say you are all watching from wherever you're watching remotely, there's a lot of debate that goes on in the comment sections of parliamentary committees. When I was young, and I was just reminded when I saw Kume, we once said, when we were young, both of us, before we got old, one of our tactic, that was when, the newspapers were moving to the internet, where a lot of political debate was happening was in the comment sections. Khadra will remember it. And it was a deliberate tactic to make sure that we are in those discussions there. Because if you are not there, then no one knows what your views are, and you'll be surprised. Say the day that I'll give this as an example in terms of how I use technology in Parliament. The day that SAFA is in Parliament, so there are people watching it on YouTube. Now someone then WhatsApps me to say, no, but here's the contract. So before my turn, it says, no, this is the information that you could ask. Now, I have to respond. It's unlike in the past where you had to post a letter, then the post office is on strike, then it takes 3 weeks. By the time it gets there, the information is old. So using, I think someone was mentioning WhatsApp groups. Even if you said, let's say you are watching Scopa, and there's a point that you think maybe Zibi might advance, you can post it. They also watch. We can be in a sitting, and I can watch the same sitting on YouTube to check what are the comments of the people in that space is. So that's the first thing. But also in terms of legislation, it's now easier to comment and to offer views on legislation in Parliament. I know that the Gauteng legislature is still a bit slow there, but Parliament, everything. So even if you want to know the committees that are sitting on Tuesday, you can go to the Parliament website now, and then you can get that list. So if there's one thing insofar as what I will encourage in the work to assist and us in the work that we do in Parliament is to then do that. So I'm happy that there's an offer for more researchers. I saw Chess smiling, and I'll get that coordinate with the office so that if they are, let's say for instance, because of the capacity, it's difficult to go to all committees at any given time. Let's say on Tuesday, there are 15 committees that are sitting at the same time. So if I'm in transport and Zibi is in Scopa, we can only cover 2 out of 15, which means the other 13, either we, maybe I'll ask Chess to say, can you just keep an eye on this one? But we have to accept that we'll not be able to deal with all the legislations that come in the way that if we had extra members, we'll be able to touch on it. But if we have people, let's say you are interested in the public service and you've got a view, we welcome that, assistance, and I'll ask the office to interact so that even the points that we raise in Parliament, you can hear yourself. We appreciate when we hear other people, and then we just deliver in terms of what they are saying. But I said our focus it's on governance. It's on winning elections. Because if you don't compete for political power, then we can't do the changes that you want to do. So even our structures, we don't want to just have a branch structure for its own sake. It must exist to win and bring the best people who can be councillors, who can be candidates. If you're a branch, you are not recruiting upwards, then who must serve your area? So we will be, and we are election focused. And there are times, and this point was raised, I know Zibi is going to speak to it a lot more. Given where we are and the state of Johannesburg and the other cities, there's a point wherein you say, we have to be transactional to get things done. And what do I mean by that? It means that even in the relationships that we do, our focus is getting Johannesburg working as the first thing. And then once that's done, then we can deal with the other issues. Because if Johannesburg and the other Mohale, Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, Emalahleni, Cape Town, and others don't work, then the country it's going to fall. So that's where we are going. So if you hear me talk about even if you have a VD structure, it must be towards an election. We are not going to organize for the sake of organizing. There's agency here. We are organizing to win political power. So if you were to ask me now, you reside in Johannesburg, why are you organizing in Johannesburg? Is to get councillors elected in Johannesburg. Don't beat around the bush and say you are doing this. We are not the Mother Teresa of South African politics. No, I'm clear. We are not the Mother Teresa or Dalai Lama of South African politics. We exist to win, to fight for political power so that we can fix our communities. If you feel like your politics don't get us, you are not interested in who the councillors are, then maybe it's not the politics that we are on. If we say our problem, Khadeb, is leaders, but you want to do other politics other than bringing leaders to govern, why? Because your solution is not linked to your problem. Our problems is leaders. Rise Mzansi must get leaders elected. So each morning your obsession is what? Is to find leaders, is to find people, get them registered. Because you can't vote unless you are registered. Get them registered. Because we want to acquire political power, not through the method of Traore and others. We don't have guns, you can see. We don't have them. So we can't, our way of doing this is through the ballot. And we want to acquire political power through the ballot. That's why we are here. We are not here for other things, to get the best leaders. I saw someone wearing that shirt. We do need new leaders. And to get new leaders in a democracy, you must get them elected. There's no two ways. You can't get new leaders other than getting them elected. So our obsession is to get new leaders into councils and government. I'll leave all the nice questions to my leader here to then deal with them.
Sure. And then Tasongs, if you can just perhaps wrap us up by just answering the questions around the flimsiness of centricism. How do you balance that against the kind of real outcomes that parties on the left, on leftist political parties generally try and generally pursue, and even there's this idea that that constitutionalism as a value even is a centrist idea. That thing is a radical document for me. How do we use a center-left political vehicle to realize the radical ideas envisioned in a document like the Bill of Rights? And then secondly, there was a comment around the kind of practical hurdles that middle-class voters and middle-class citizens and residents are confronted with when navigating politics. How are those overcome?
No, thank you very much. So I believe that in South Africa in particular, social democratic politics represents the center. I think the Constitution sends us in that direction, and I think our politics historically sends us in that direction. So I just want to be clear that part of our job politically is to make social democratic politics the center in South Africa, and then you can work your way from there, basically. Otherwise, you get into this situation where you never really pick a side. In that you're trying to please everyone, and as you end up getting everyone upset with you ultimately. So that is the first thing. The second thing, though, is that we also have to be pragmatic. And what do I mean by that? And I will use a practical example, because I sent a tweet yesterday and I knew it would cause lots of conversation and people to be upset, and I sent it deliberately. And I'll use a practical example. I asked Barbara Creasy earlier this year or last year, how much money do Transnet and PRASA need to get to 2015 levels of performance? One needs 110 billion, the other needs 125 billion, right? To both fix the damage plus also build for the future, basically. Part of the reason in the case of Transnet is that we spend 54 billion or 60 billion buying locomotives which are not here. So we must spend that money again, right? That's the bottom line. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, South Africans cannot pay any more tax, right? Which means the reality is we will never be able to fund Transnet and PRASA to the level to which the majority of South Africans can rely on a train that is comfortable and safe. So we now must make choices, and this is where we have to be pragmatic. We have pension funds in South Africa, we have got provident funds in South Africa, who get extraordinary dividends and then have nowhere in which to put the excess money. So to give you an example, the government employees pension fund, if you had to stop contributions for the whole year and the whole of next year, it would still have enough money. It's 110% subscribed. It's got cash, right? The reason it's got cash is that there is no way in which to invest that money. What is a practical solution? A practical solution is to create a shareholding structure where the provident funds and all of these can contribute 30, 40 billion into Transnet. But you can't have the government owning 100% of the thing, but not have any ability to make it work. Pragmatically, you must do that, or you are never going to solve the problem. And that is where some of the left positions get into conflict with me. Because you are telling me about a problem that will never get solved for purity's sake, when there is money here in South Africa. We can't use it, because if we use it, it's going to offend you ideologically. I am not about that. There's money, use it for the public good, so that people who travel to work every day pay 15 rand a day return to go to work. I'm sorry, that's a priority for me. And that is where I fight with the old lefties, right? I fight with them because I'm sorry. So if the government owns 52% of Transnet, 52%, you appoint most of the directors and so on, but 48% of the capital is coming from provident funds and so on. Where is the problem? Why are we fighting? You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to say is I'm all about outcomes. If the outcome materially is that there will finally be a train that goes between Mount Frey and Mthatha, so that a child who's at Walter Sisulu University doesn't have to go and find an additional 100,000 a year from a poor family. They can get on a train, go to university, go back home. I am going to solve that problem however way I can with money that is here in South Africa. That is how we are holding ourselves back with old ideological dogmas in the ANC, the EFF, and MKP. That for me is not progressive politics. progressive politics for me says I can take the money that we are now taking money from the National Revenue Fund. If we were to be able to do things like this, we can easily have an extra 100 to 160 billion rand for better schools with Wi-Fi, right? Safer schools, better medical facilities under the public health system, and so on. But we refuse to do it because we also want to give 20 billion to SAA when the majority of South Africans cannot afford a flight. They can't.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sorry. Some of us can, but the majority can't afford a flight. So they must use a taxi where they're going to get beaten up if somebody gives them a lift. Because we want to give 25 billion to SAA. Me, I'm about solving for the person who actually need to go to a clinic at 10 p.m. and it's open. And they can get the help they need. There is a professional nurse and a doctor within an hour or 30 minutes at 10, 11 at night. That's a problem I want to solve. So it's important that we take this pragmatic approach so that the outcomes serve those who are most vulnerable. So that's what. So anyway, I hope I've made this clear, right? Because the moment you say the government shouldn't own 100%, yeah, people get very upset. No, when I own 100%, fine. A lot of people go without water. So anyway, and I'm happy to have this debate anytime, because I think it's going to be helpful that we have it. The second thing I want to may have now. Became too passionate.
The middle class hurdles to
The
participation.
middle class hurdles to participation. No, you know what? So the point I'm making is that we need to get into the habit of doing more than what we do currently. So I'll give you an example. A lot of people just don't donate, and I was a professional myself. They don't give like 200 rand a month to a political cause they believe in. Now, come on, there is no need why people don't do so. That is the first thing. The second thing is you can still organize without getting elected. Maybe it's the people I know, right? The majority of people are on Twitter, not here like you. That's the problem, right? And we need to get out of that self-paralysis where people feel that if I get into organizing spaces, I'm doing something that I'm not supposed to do because I'm only supposed to rock up and vote. Then when you've got more people like myself in politics, the public sector will be a safer space for professionals to work.
Yeah.
You see? Then you are not going to get victimized because you are doing your work as an auditor, which is what your profession tells you to do. But, somebody's going to kill you if you do. So anyway, so that's what I'm saying, that people learn to organize in the normal course, in their own spaces, using whatever they can to help the effort and so on. So that we also don't rely so much on big donors and then create this mistrust that people have. Yeah, but Oppenheimer gave you 15 million, so you must be taking instruction. What you actually want is you want to raise 30 million from small donations. Double. Then you've got 20,000 people that you answer to, not one. You know what I mean? So that is how you create balance in the system. And South Africans don't have a culture of donating. I know even in church, people have to be strong-armed to tithe. It's a South African thing. And the last thing I want to say, I've got a family commitment, which I'm so passionate I've forgotten. It didn't remind me. So the last thing I want to talk about is the technology. We can do better with technology. One of the things I've committed to is doing more TikTok lives and Instagram live. And I have a vibrant community on TikTok, half of which swears at me because, and I don't care, by the way. I engage, but I am committing myself to doing a lot more. We are talking in the context of the committee. We're actually talking to the Parliament IT team about trying to extend the channels that we use for certain things to include some of these social media channels, not just YouTube only, so that we can see some of what people are saying. Since Parliament doesn't have a building, people cannot participate. ESCOM, I will follow this up. Where are you? Are you in the city of Johannesburg, or are you under an area that's serviced by ESCOM? Okay. No, we can follow it up, find out what's happening. I know the people at ESCOM.
Okay. And then, Mr. G, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and then the song is
Less than
done.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. So you know when councils, municipal councils, were conceived, it was not supposed to be a full-time job, and it's not a full-time job. It's a part-time job. So my good friend here, Kume, will know you can be able, if you have an employer that also, let's say you've got an employer in Johannesburg, and then part of the understanding is that you'll also contribute to them living in a better place, then they can give you the space to do that. I was a councillor while working full-time because I had negotiated with the employer. So unlike Parliament and the legislature, council, you don't have to be a full-time councillor. Only when you are the mayor, the speaker, and the MMC. And I think now they might have tried with the chairpersons, but everyone else. So around about 230 or 220 of the councillors in Johannesburg, they are not full-time councillors. They are part-time, in the same way that if you're a board member in a company, you will then participate. That's why, I like what Zibi says around, if you start thinking about this as like a responsibility almost similar to that of being a board member, then maybe we can get few more people. Because sometimes people, they believe that councillors, it's a full-time position.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
So we can get maybe a bit more, extra 5-6 people that can then come in to be candidates, because now they know that it's not a full-time position if you are not a mayor or a MMC. We want the mayor to be full-time and want an MMC to be full-time, but everyone else serves in the same way as like a board member is. And by the way, if you serve in a committee, it meets once a month. A council is once a month.
Sure.
Yeah.
The song's noting you have to go be a family man now, no? You spoke about how...
It's too late. I'm sure they've disowned me by now, but anyway, I can't.
You spoke a little bit about how it's do or die over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Give me a little bit of a perspective of what makes you hopeful about the current political moment, about RISE, and what your contribution to public governance is, and why you're hopeful for the future. Just to close us off.
So firstly, the bad news to me, so then I'll come to the good news. The bad news is, now that I'm closer to government institutions and so on, it really is bad. It's bad, leaders. No, it's bad. I won't lie. It's scary. Sometimes I wonder whether it is better to know or not to know, because you see the hohos in there and you can't sleep because you think, sure, how are we gonna do in tomorrow's meeting? It's not just a road accident fund. It's like half of the institutions we deal with. You just think, surely it cannot be this bad, especially when the people come there and they think it's all fine. And we are in serious trouble. So I want to start there. But I also want to say, there's one thing about a crisis, is that it wakes everyone up. And I think we will agree that South Africans are realizing that waiting now is no longer an option. Things are really bad. People are struggling financially. There is a cost of living crisis. Public infrastructure is not available to most people. And we don't have time to waste and time to hang around. And I find that when we have a conversation this year with people about political interventions and political organizing, they are more awake now. And that keeps me hopeful, because I must tell you, the things we see there can be depressing. But at least when you encounter people in airports, in malls, in a town, on the street and so on, and on WhatsApp, people want to do something. And that, to me, makes me very excited, not just hopeful, because it means we can drive the change.
No, thank you for that, the songs, and thank you to everybody who came out to spend your morning with us. I know you could have been drinking mimosas somewhere on a Saturday morning, but you decided instead to come and spend your time here with us. Thank you, massive, massive thank you to everybody who joined us online and for participating in this discussion. Like I said, this is just this is going to be an ongoing series of discussions that we have about topical issues that define South African political life. We'll keep this open as a feedback loop so that you have a strong perspective of the work that Rise Mzansi is doing in legislative assemblies and government in Gauteng. But massive, massive thank you, and I wish you all a great weekend. Thank you so much.
I rise. I rise. We rise.
Together.
We rise.
Together.
Thank you. I'm sure it died. No? Yeah, no, it was.
But one, my phone also died now, so what I was doing, no, I gave you.
No,